Okay, so when I say the name Jonah, what's the first thing that pops into your head? I'm gonna guess it's a man and a whale, right? It's one of the most famous stories on the planet, a classic Sunday school tale about a guy and a very, very big fish.
We all think we know it. We learned it as kids after all. A prophet on the run, a huge storm at sea, and this miraculous fishy rescue. It seems pretty simple and memorable.
I mean, that's the headline, isn't it? Man gets swallowed by a fish. It's the part that sticks in your brain, the part that's so unbelievable and so spectacular that it kind of becomes the entire point of the story.
But what if it's not? What if that incredible, fantastical event is actually just a huge distraction from a much deeper, more challenging, and frankly, more shocking message? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
All right, so first things first, let's meet our main character. And this is really important. Jonah wasn't just some random guy who had a bad day at sea. He was a professional, a prophet of God with a very specific and, as it turns out, a very difficult job to do.
Yeah, believe it or not, the Book of 2 Kings actually gives him a shout-out. This tells us he was a real historical person, living around 760 BC. Israel was doing pretty well at the time. It was peaceful, prosperous. So this isn't a fairy tale. When God speaks to this guy, it's a serious call to a seasoned prophet.
And here's the call. It's direct, it's crystal clear. Go to Nineveh, which was the capital of the Assyrian Empire, and tell them that judgment is coming their way because of how wicked they are. A pretty straightforward, if maybe dangerous, assignment for a prophet.
So how does our prophet Jonah react to this direct command from God? He immediately and defiantly bolts. He heads down to the docks and books a one-way ticket to Tarshish, which, you gotta understand, was basically the end of the known world back then, probably in modern-day Spain. He's not just ignoring God. He is literally trying to run to the edge of the map to get away.
And this is where the story gets kinda hilarious, actually. It's brilliant satire. As this massive, life-threatening storm hits the ship, Jonah, the supposed man of God, is downstairs fast asleep. Meanwhile, the so-called pagan sailors, they're the ones acting godly. They're praying to their gods, they're working like crazy to save the ship, and when they finally figure out Jonah's the problem and throw him overboard, they make sacrifices to his god. The story just completely flips our expectations on their head.
So yeah, Jonah's big escape plan? A total failure. But his mission is far from over. This is where the story takes its most famous turn, and also its most surprising one.
Now here's the thing we usually miss. The great fish isn't a punishment, it's a rescue. It's basically God's Uber, pulling Jonah out of the deep. After a 3-day divine timeout, Jonah gets unceremoniously dropped back on dry land, and God gives him the exact same command as before. Like, okay, Jonah, let's try this again.
So this time, Jonah actually obeys. He trudges into Nineveh and delivers what has to be the shortest, laziest, most unenthusiastic sermon in history. In the original Hebrew, it's just 5 words. No call to repent, no offer of mercy, just a grumpy, "In 40 days Nineveh shall be overthrown." That's it.
And with that pathetic, minimal effort, you'd expect nothing to happen, right? Wrong. The result is absolutely mind-blowing. Jonah accidentally sparks the single greatest spiritual revival recorded in the entire Bible. It's an outcome that nobody, least of all Jonah, could have ever seen coming.
And we are not talking about a few people feeling a little guilty. We're talking a complete citywide transformation. Everybody from the king on his throne down to the lowest person in the city repents. They fast, they wear sackcloth, the king sits in a pile of ashes, they even make their animals fast and wear sackcloth. It's this over-the-top total response, and God sees it and he spares the city.
Okay, so mission accomplished. Wild success. The city is saved, God is pleased, everybody should be celebrating, right? Well, this is the exact moment the story takes a hard left turn and shows us what it's really all about.
Because Jonah is not celebrating. He is absolutely furious. So angry, in fact, that he tells God he'd rather be dead. And this, right here, is the central puzzle of the whole book. Why in the world would a prophet be angry that his prophecy actually worked?
Well, to get why Jonah is so ticked off, you have to know who the Ninevites were. Nineveh wasn't just some city. It was the capital of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. And these guys, they were the supervillains of the ancient world. Their cruelty was legendary. To an Israelite like Jonah, the Ninevites were the ultimate enemy, monsters who deserved nothing but God's wrath.
And suddenly, it all clicks into place. Jonah wasn't running from a dangerous mission. He was running from a merciful God. And this final chapter is just this incredible showdown between Jonah's narrow, tribal hatred and God's boundless compassion.
Jonah finally just blurts it out. In his complaint to God, he basically says, "I knew it. I knew you were merciful and compassionate. That's the whole reason I ran away." Think about that. He wasn't afraid of failing. He was terrified that God would succeed in forgiving his enemies.
So as Jonah is sitting outside the city just fuming, the story takes one last kind of bizarre turn. God makes a plant grow up overnight to give Jonah some shade, which makes him super happy. Then God sends a worm to kill the plant, and Jonah is once again completely devastated, furious that his little bit of comfort is gone.
And bam, that's the object lesson. God just points out the hypocrisy. He says, Jonah, you have immense pity for a plant you didn't create that lasted just a day. You care so much about your own minor comfort, but you feel nothing for an entire city of more than 120,000 people, not to mention all their animals.
This whole confrontation leads to one of the most famous and, frankly, unsettling endings in all of literature. There is no neat little bow on this story, no happily ever after.
These are the last words in the entire book. It's a question from God to Jonah. God justifies his compassion for the people, who he describes as being morally clueless, like children. He even mentions his concern for their livestock. And he just asks Jonah, "Shouldn't I care about them?"
And that's it. The story just stops. No answer from Jonah, no final prayer, no sudden change of heart. The credits just roll, leaving the prophet and leaving us hanging with this enormous, unanswered question.
And that is the absolute genius of the book of Jonah. It was never really about a man being swallowed by a fish. The whole story is a setup for that final question. And that question isn't just for that angry prophet sitting in the dust. It's designed to echo through the centuries and land right at our feet, asking us, who do you believe is worthy of compassion? And is your heart as big as God's?